Hi everybody, I'm TJ Campbell, the Tire Information and Testing Manager at the Tire Rack, and this is TJ Talking, where we have the opportunity to talk with industry experts about tires. Today we have Will Robbins from Bridgestone Firestone. Will, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody hi and who you are?
Yeah, thanks, TJ. Hi, everybody. My name is Will Robbins with Bridgestone Americas. I am in our strategic product team. So my group really looks at industry trends in vehicles and tire sizing and make sure that we are putting out the right products in the right sizes so that we can, give them to our wonderful distributors like Tire Rack to get to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And today we're going to start talking about Bridgestone Turanza QuietTrack. And seriously, what a tire. The first time we tested it before the product officially launched, we were impressed. And then we've tested it twice now in our standard test seasons, and it is a great product. It lives up to its name, the Turanza QuietTrack. It's quiet, it's refined on the road, it handles quite well for a Grand Touring all-season tire. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the targets and the goals that went into the development of the tire?
Yeah, absolutely. So this segment, the Grand Touring all-season segment, is kind of interesting to us in that this is where people bring their strongest game. This is where all of everyone in the industry, they want to have a product in this segment that kind of puts their stamp of technology, of performance, of refinement out there on, for these premium vehicles in particular. And so the competition in this space is really strong.
The flagship products of the manufacturer.
Yeah, exactly. So we knew that when we were developing the QuietTrack, we had to bring that level of performance. And so, we always in the tire industry talk about stretching the string, increasing that performance everywhere where we can. And that's really what we tried to do with the QuietTrack. So we really pushed, long wear life. We really pushed wet performance. We really pushed winter performance. And then also that quietness, that refinement, and that ride comfort that people that, if they're looking for a Grand Touring all-season tire, they're really demanding that level of performance.
Sure, yeah, it's a premium product. At the top tier of Grand Touring all-season, you're talking premium vehicles. It's a good tire all around. We're still, to this day, even in the face of new competitors, we're still very impressed with how the Turanza QuietTrack performs. I suppose one spot that it's satisfying, it's very good, but it's not category leading, is wet traction. Tell me a little bit about the wet traction on the Turanza QuietTrack.
Yeah, absolutely. So the wet performance was kind of an area that we wanted to push a little bit. As you said, it's not necessarily the absolute top of the ranks in that level of performance, but our goal was to try to deliver as much performance as we felt the tire needed to have, while also being able to provide that balance in those other areas like winter performance and wear performance. And so a lot of that is compounding, especially how you balance the compound properties, the silica versus some of the other properties of the compound,
of course,
to deliver those levels of performance. One thing relative to wet that is, it's not unique necessarily to the QuietTrack, but it was a big priority for us, was providing that level of wet performance over the tire's life. So, almost all of the features on the product are full depth. And so you're going to see those sipes, those slots and everything, they're going to stick around till really close to the end of the tire's life. And so you're going to continue to keep that consistent wet performance throughout the life of the tire.
Yep, that's excellent. And, it's important, especially with a tire that has the longevity of, something like the Turanza QuietTrack. It needs to continue satisfying drivers throughout its life. And the Turanza QuietTrack, it provides all the wet traction that a driver will need, every day on the road. It's, when testing it against the best of the best, sure, it's just a small step behind, but it's definitely something that will satisfy consumers. But you mentioned that it's a trade-off for winter sometimes, wet traction. And that's one place that we were very, very impressed with the Turanza QuietTrack. Our last conversation that we had, you mentioned balance performance when talking about the Destination LE3, and that is the best way that I can describe the way that the Turanza QuietTrack performs in the snow. It didn't have the fastest acceleration time, it didn't have the shortest braking distances, but it was the clear leader in lap times around the handling track that we use there in Sweden, because it just puts everything together so well, and it's usable traction. And the Turanza QuietTrack, that's one of the things that we noticed, once again, from the first time we ever tested it, before the product had launched, we had a little preview that we did here at the tire rack in the snow, and just usable traction is the best way that I can describe it. Was that something that your team, was striving for in the development?
Absolutely. And, similar to kind of the conversation we had about the Destination LE3, we always strive for balance. And in particular, in the snow, I won't say it's easy to develop a tire that has a lot of peak traction, because it's not. It requires a lot of technology and development, but it's got to be more than that. And the best example I can think of is when we do a lot of our testing, a characteristic of our tires in the snow is that level of balance. And when we look at what it takes to extract a level of performance, if you put a professional driver on some of the tires that are a little bit peakier, maybe they have a little bit more of that high grip, but it requires a level of skill to drive them close to that limit that I frankly don't have, and I think that most people would struggle to extract that level of performance. So to me, it's about usable performance and accessible performance, and a characteristic of a lot of our products that we've talked about is that accessibility and is that balance. And as you said, it may not necessarily be the best in every area, but when you can put all those pieces together, sometimes the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Right, exactly, and that's definitely what we experienced. So the other trade-off that you mentioned, if you wouldn't mind, kind of touching on it again, was wear. Wear isn't a part of our test program. It's something that is kind of reported by consumers, but it's a 70,000 mile tire. Is that right? Right. And that
80,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Yep, 80,000 mile tire. That's a big number. That's a lot of life. Is that something that you feel is conservative? Is that or something that I guess real world mileage versus tread life warranty mileage? Is it something you're pretty confident that the tire will hit pretty regularly? Of course, based on proper rotation and no vehicle issues, and of course that kind of thing. Is it a pretty solid number?
Yeah, absolutely. And we generally are relatively conservative when we put wear warranties on products. If we're not confident that the product will achieve it, then we're not going to put it on the tire. And if you think about how wear works in the market, just because of all those things you just mentioned, differences in vehicles and surfaces and driving conditions, it's really not a single number, it's a distribution. And so what we have to try to do when we design is ensure that we have the distribution shifted far enough that basically everybody, or as many people as is possible, are going to get that level of performance in the market. And so we put a lot of thought into how we come up with those guidelines, where we set the internal targets, so that we're able to communicate externally with something like an 80,000 mile warranty. So yeah, we have a lot of confidence in our wear warranty performance.
Sure, and I figured you would, otherwise I probably wouldn't have asked it. But yeah, that's excellent. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about that tire? Like I said, we've tested it. It's a favorite around here. We know it's a solid benchmark. Any new player that's trying to come out, in that space, we use it as the bogey that they tested against. So we're impressed with it. But is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about the tire?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the QuietTrack was kind of how it got its name. And you'll notice, if you look at a features and benefits page, you look at the main grooves of the tires, you see these little ribs in there. As we were going through and kind of developing, it's like, what are we going to call these? Oh, let's call them QuietTracks. And really what those do is they attenuate pattern noise. So if you think about like the footprint of a tire and the main grooves that are in the center of like a normal kind of Grand Touring all-season tire, those have a very specific frequency at which they create noise. And so, if you have a bunch of those lined up, you can have noise that is very noticeable to a driver. If you have a rounded footprint, then you can kind of help break that noise up by making different lengths of those a little bit too. Certainly. But if you add those little grooves, the little QuietTracks in there, what you can do is you can create turbulent flow essentially in there, which helps break that noise up even further. And so, as we were thinking what we were going to name the tire, it's like, well, let's call it the QuietTrack. We've got these, and it just all kind of came together in the end. It was a really cool story of, how a technology kind of drove the marketing of a product for something that's really practical, and that so far we've had really positive feedback about the noise and the ride comfort of the QuietTrack in the market. So, we feel really great about how that worked out.
Sure, that's kind of a form follows function, sort of with the naming convention there. It definitely lives up to its name, which is great. Will, thank you so much for all the information on Turanza QuietTrack. Your knowledge is always appreciated, and it's great talking with you as always. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. It's been great.